Pileggi Technical Services, your computers and electronics concierge service. Welcome back. Today we're taking a look at this Thomas Renegade Pro Series air compressor. This is actually a compressor that belongs to a place I work for, and this is used every day pretty much. It's not actually used for any air tools, rather it's used for just the straight air with a blower at the end of it. And because of that, you can imagine this thing goes through quite a lot of fill and empty cycles. So that being said, it's a very good unit. The owner of it has had it for quite a while now, and he'd like to keep it running. However, it started making a god-awful noise the other day, and it turns out that the fan, which you can see has two mounting holes, is made out of plastic, and after a while these mounting holes kind of wear out, and then you can just switch it over to the other mounting hole. However, the fan that was in this unit has both holes wore and need to get replaced. Now that's already been done. This is actually a second fan that we have to keep as a spare. However, you can see there's other parts here, and this is actually a rebuild kit. And this is the piston sleeve and all the other pieces to make that work, and new gaskets and new air filter. For the amount of time this thing has on it, this should have this done. And since it's such a good unit and it was worth quite a bit of money when it was purchased, we're gonna fix it. And you can see I already did some things on this a while back, like I put a new chuck on it, a new sensor or pressure gauge because this one was broken. I've also changed the two drain chucks on the other side as well. And well, without any further delay, we're going to get into this. Now this is a oil-free unit because of the nature of its use. It needs to be oil-free. And we're just going to go ahead and start disassembling this. Air filter sits on top. This is the top of the piston head, and we're just going to follow it the rest of the way there. I just gathered up all the appropriate tools: a T25 Torx bit, a torque wrench, and a Phillips screwdriver. I ended up needing a 3/4 inch wrench as well to take off these bolts. And you can see it's a bit dirty in there, so I'm glad I'm doing this job. Here's a shot of the instructions, and it's pretty straightforward. All we're doing is just replacing the outer sleeve and the piston cup. They also give you new screws, which is nice because there's a Loctite compound on the bottom of them, and putting new screws in will renew that compound, obviously. And you could see from looking inside this head, it's pretty dirty. It's definitely in need for cleaning. Here's the top of the piston. I've already removed the screws up here, and if you look at this green powder residue at the end of it, that's clearly not supposed to be like that. You could see the new cup is much cleaner. So I'm just going to keep following the directions here to take this apart. I'm assuming there's pieces that were replaced in here too. We'll get to that in just a moment. I went ahead and cleaned some of this up with denatured alcohol. Here's a little bit of a close-up between the new one on the left and the old one on the right for the piston cup. Also, the top of the piston head, as you can see, I got that green off of there, as well as the other side of it and the top of the head. I have to take those two screws and torque them to 95 foot-pounds. Today's lesson: don't use Torx wrench bits in your torque wrench. Here's a look at the before and after of the air filters. This is the old air filter, and this is the new one. Yeah. This is where the air filter gets installed, in this little groove here, and then this cover just goes put on top. The next step is actually going to be, before I do that, is to take this piece apart, because there's a valve inside that has to get replaced too. And here's the inside of the head. So the way these things work is there's a blade on that side in that little recess that I've already removed, and then here's another one on this side. One moves inward, the other moves outward. So as the piston moves up and down, one allows the air to get sucked in through the top here, and then the other one pushes the air out into the tank. So from that piston moving up and down, this is basically the pump in and out, going back and forth, and that's how it pumps the air from the outside filter, which sits on the top, into this inlet which goes into the tank, just from that piston. So from this is the volume of air that you get. So when this piston, that's actually in the down position now. So when this goes down, one of those flaps, which is going to be the one in here, which would look like be the one on the bottom, that's going to move inward, which is going to draw the air in. Then when that piston moves up, it's going to blow the air through these, which is going to make this one open up. The air is going to come out of here, and then it's going to go into that chamber up here, out into the tank. Very simple. And you can see there's the new diaphragms, which is just really thin pieces of metal. Yeah, here's one of them right here. You see, so they, that's why it makes that buzzing kind of noise. Well, it seems like I'm 0 for 2 tonight. Here we have a second torque spit that cracked in our unit we're trying to take apart. So let that be lesson number 2. Don't use bits in impact guns that aren't meant to be used in an impact gun. Well, nevertheless, this thing wasn't going to budge no matter what I threw at it. You can see there's a bit of corrosion inside here compared to the other side, and this caused this bolt to just rust right in. I was able to clean as best as I could the diaphragm inside, and it actually looks a lot better than it was. So I'm not going to really worry about it. I'm going to replace the one on this side because I have it, and it comes in. It's already taken out, and it's easy to put back in. But yeah, ultimately this base plate needs to be replaced in this. It's going to work, and it still did work, but for longevity, it would be best to replace this piece. Here's the finished product. The head actually is all together. I just had to put the cover on and mount it to the top of the unit here. Basically that's it. Just have to put the gasket on the top of this too. Well, she's all put back together, so there's only one thing left to do. Plug it in and make sure she works. Well, womp. Yeah. It turns out, oh, bolt snapped on me. What happened was I went inside. This thing should have filled up. I came back outside. It didn't seem like it was filled up all the way. It wasn't getting to pressure. So I decided I'd take a look at it, and the head was cold. It wasn't getting to the proper pressure. Maybe 80 psi tops. And I figured there had to be something wrong with one of the seals, so I started to disassemble it, and the last bolt, of course, snapped. Yeah, that's great. So that's 2 broken bits and a broken bolt. I mean, this thing's built like a tank, so of course I had to fix it. Which means now I gotta get myself a bit, something I can take this out with. Maybe even, clean the threads up with a, the tap and die set. Yeah, or bite the bullet if it's cheap enough and just get this housing if I have to. Whatever I have to do, I'll fix it. I just picked myself up this bolt extractor set and a new center punch because the one I have has a funky end on it. And we're going to see if this works. By the way, a little side note, I hate self-checkouts. I used to really like them, but now it seems like most of these stores, that's all they have open. And when you go to the self-checkout, there's only like one actually working. The damn thing charged me for 2 of these. I suppose I could have looked at the receipt before I left, but it just pisses me off. first we're going to make a center punched hole with this center punch. Then we're going to drill the bolt out using this 5/32 inch drill bit. And then, hopefully, this EX3 bit is going to help us extract this bolt. Well, despite my best efforts, I was not able to get that bolt out. I tried for a while last night, and I just gave up on it. It would not come out. I really tightened it in there good, and yeah, it's not coming out. The worst part is the housing that this piston sits in is not replaceable. I was kind of hoping to get away with maybe tearing the whole thing apart completely and taking the housing off the motor. Nope, doesn't work. Motor and the housing are completely one unit according to the parts diagram, at least that I'm looking at. And not only that, but that's not an attainable part. You basically have to buy a new compressor. Well, all isn't lost, I guess. The owner is going to buy a new compressor. We actually found out that this particular model by that particular manufacturer has been re-released and is available to the public again at a cheaper price than he originally purchased it at. So that's not so bad. And after I told him about the rust and the corrosion that I've experienced inside of this thing, and given the nature of its use, he decided best course of action would just be to replace it. So while it breaks my heart to have had this happen to me to begin with, it's not really that bad of a thing because it was going to get replaced anyway. So chalk it up for experience, take it as a lesson learned, or a few lessons learned now, I should say. And just to make good on it, I'm actually going to let the guy borrow my air compressor, which PSI is one thing, but CFM is another. And the older unit that you were just looking at has like 4.4. This is like 6 something, and I believe the one that he originally bought to replace the other one is like 2 something. And that's where the problem lies. Is, like I said, we're using this for a blower more than for air tools, and when you're using wide open, blowing like that, you want the volume of air, not necessarily the pressure. And this machine's going to, give us a better job, I guess you could say. Just going to do the job a little better than what we're using now until the replacement comes. This is, the best I can do for him at least. Well, with that, thanks for watching. Hopefully the next project will go a lot smoother than this one did.